The quiet mining outpost on the edge of Sector 9 rarely saw travelers, and even when they did, no one stayed long enough to notice the dust storms, the old metal roofs, or the lonely walkways that stretched across the settlement like forgotten bones. Humans lived there, aliens passed through. Everyone minded their own troubles. No one bothered with kindness, and no one expected it. That was why the moment stayed with him, why it changed everything. Evan Cole worked maintenance on the outer platforms. It was a tiring job, filled with long hours and broken machinery, and the constant hum of generators that made sleep difficult. He didn't talk much, not because he disliked people, but because no one really spoke to him unless they needed something fixed. His life was simple, predictable, and silent, until the day she walked in. The alien woman had arrived during the afternoon shift. People rarely gasped at new faces on the outpost, but they paused when she stepped through the doors of the supply hall. Her skin looked like soft silver clay shaped by warm hands, smooth and gentle. Her hair shimmered like strands of cooled starlight. Her eyes, deep violet with a glowing ring, took in everything with quiet caution. Like she expected danger behind every shadow. Evan had seen alien races before, but he had never seen anyone carry herself the way she did, with strength that looked tired and grace that looked unpracticed. As if she wasn't used to walking freely, she looked like someone who had lived through storms far worse than the dusty winds of Sector 9. People stared at her, but not kindly. Some whispered, some avoided her. Some looked uncertain. She kept her head low and asked for supplies in a soft, almost trembling voice. The storekeeper barely acknowledged her. Evan didn't know why that bothered him. Maybe it was the way she flinched at dismissive tones. Maybe it was the way she clutched her small travel bag like it held her whole life. Or maybe it was something he couldn't name, something about the loneliness in her eyes that matched his own. He approached without thinking. She stood near a broken vending unit, trying to understand its outdated interface. The machine beeped at her mistakes. The tension in her shoulders rose. She pressed another button, too softly this time, and the machine flashed an error. Evan stepped forward. "It's not your fault. That thing barely works for humans," she startled. Her head lifted quickly, violet eyes meeting his. They held a defensive shine, as if she expected criticism, not help. Evan lifted his hand slightly, showing he meant no harm. "May I?" he asked gently. She hesitated, then nodded once. Evan tapped the side of the machine, hit a reset key only someone who worked maintenance would know, and the old unit whirred back to life. A soft line of text scrolled across the cracked display. The woman's eyes widened in quiet surprise. "It functions now?" she asked, her voice almost unsure of whether she was allowed to feel relieved. "For the moment," Evan said with a small smile. "It acts up every few hours, like me on bad mornings." Her lips pulled upward, carefully, like she had to remember how to smile. It wasn't the polite smile people gave strangers. It was much softer and a little confused, like she had never expected someone to speak to her kindly in a place like this. "Thank you," she said. "You did not have to." "I know," he replied. "But you look like you've been dealing with broken things all day." Her fingers froze. Her eyes flickered downward, as if the words struck something deep. She looked away quickly, not wanting him to see her emotions. Something about her reaction told Evan that she didn't receive kindness often, maybe not ever. "What's your name?" he asked. Her voice wavered. "Lirana." "Nice to meet you, Lirana. I'm Evan." She repeated his name quietly, almost testing its sound. Evan. He didn't know why that made his chest feel warm. Before he could speak again, two miners walked past. One snickered under his breath. The other whispered something about outsiders and strays. Lirana stiffened, as if struck. Her hand slowly pulled away from the vending machine, and her gaze dropped to the floor. She began stepping back, ready to remove herself from the space, as if she had no right to exist there. Something inside Evan tightened. He didn't like bullies, but more than that, he didn't like the way their careless words crushed the small, fragile smile she had just discovered. "You handled that machine well," he said suddenly, turning to her with purpose. She blinked. "I did not. I made errors." "You tried," he said. Most people just hit it until it breaks. A faint shine entered her eyes again. Why do you speak so kindly? He hadn't expected that question. It wasn't asked in a curious tone, it was asked in a painfully honest one. As if kindness was unfamiliar. Suspicious even, so he answered with the truth. Because you deserve it, he said. Her breath caught. Her head lifted. She looked at him. Really looked at him, as if someone had just told her the stars were shaped differently than she believed. Her eyes softened in a way that made his heartbeat change rhythm. It was just a compliment, a simple human sentence. But from her reaction, he understood she had never heard anything like it before, and that was when everything shifted. The rest of the supply hall faded for a moment. The murmurs, the footsteps, the distant machinery noise, they blurred, until only her quiet shock remained. She held his gaze like she was trying to memorize the moment before it disappeared. No one has spoken to me that way, she whispered. Ever? Evan asked. Not without wanting something in return. He frowned. Well, I don't want anything. She stared at him in stunned silence. Almost as if she didn't trust her own ears. Slowly, cautiously, she approached him again. Her movements were soft, careful, like she was afraid he might step away. Why? She asked again. But this time her voice sounded fragile. Almost afraid of the answer. Evan shrugged lightly. Because sometimes people need to hear something good. Especially when they've heard too much of the bad. Lorana's fingers curled around the strap of her bag. She looked at the floor, then at him, then at the floor again. She seemed to be fighting something inside herself. Maybe an instinct to run or to hide her feelings. Evan, she said softly, as if saying his name grounded her. Would you walk with me? Only outside. I do not know this place. He wasn't expecting that. But he nodded right away. Outside, the wind carried warm dust in thin spirals. The sky held streaks of sunset orange. Lorana walked beside him, her steps light and uncertain, as though she wasn't used to having someone matching her pace rather than rushing past her. She kept glancing at him, small glances that lasted half a second, as if she didn't know what to do with the compliment he had given her. It lingered between them, warm and fragile. Your words, she said finally. They changed something. I didn't mean to upset you. You didn't upset me. You. She paused, struggling to find a word. You surprised me. The dust settled around them as they reached the outer walkway. A shuttle passed overhead, leaving a soft trail of light. She looked at it with longing, but also hesitation. Are you leaving soon? Evan asked gently. I do not know if I can, she admitted. I do not know where I belong anymore. He watched her expression carefully. There was a quiet fear hidden behind her eyes. Not fear of danger, but fear of having no place. No people. No future. She looked like someone who had been pushed from home and never given a new one. You can stay here for as long as you need, he said without thinking too hard. It's not much, but no one will bother you if you're with me. Her head turned slowly. With you? Yes, if you want. The wind caught the edge of her hair, sending soft silver strands drifting around her face. She looked at him with a searching expression, as if she was trying to decide whether humans were capable of honesty, real, simple honesty. And then something unexpected happened. She stepped closer, close enough that he could see the faint shimmering freckles along her cheekbones. Tiny silver sparks that glowed when she felt strong emotions. She studied his face in silence, almost cautiously, as if she was trying to read the truth inside him. You gave me a compliment, she said quietly, and I do not know how to carry it. That's okay, Evan replied gently. You don't have to do anything with it. But she shook her head very slowly. No, she whispered. I want to understand it. I want to understand why your words made my heart feel heavy, but warm. Thank you for watching. End quote. End quote. Fiverr my now. Also to I word spire. End quote. Freedid. Feeded quote. I want to understand it. Evan's breath softened. He didn't push. Didn't ask. Didn't rush her. He simply let her feel whatever she needed to feel. She took another step closer. "Evan," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "When you spoke kindly, it felt as if someone saw me for the first time." He felt the weight of those words settle in his chest. Without thinking, he answered gently, "I do see you." That was the moment she turned fully toward him slowly, completely, and looked straight into his eyes, and everything changed. Evan didn't know what to do at first when Lyrana turned toward him. Her violet eyes carried a depth he hadn't seen in many humans, let alone travelers passing through their forgotten outpost. She wasn't simply looking at him. She was searching, learning, trying to understand something she had never felt before. The soft evening light brushed across her silver-toned features, giving her the appearance of someone caught between two worlds, the one she had run from and the one she hadn't yet found. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. It was more like the space between breaths, filled with questions waiting for someone brave enough to ask them. Finally, she whispered, "You said you see me. Do you mean that you see what I am? Or who I am?" "I mean who you are," Evan replied gently. Her hands tightened around the strap of her small travel bag. "No one has looked at me that way. Not even on my home world." He frowned lightly. "Why not?" She opened her mouth, then closed it again, unsure how much she should reveal. Her gaze drifted across the outpost. Humans hurried along metal walkways, avoiding the dusty winds. Machinery groaned in the distance. It wasn't the kind of place where deep truths were normally shared, but maybe that was why she finally spoke. "My people believe worth is measured by service," she said quietly. "By how useful you are to them. But when I looked at myself, I did not know where I belonged." Evan listened without interrupting. She continued, her voice steady but fragile at the edges. "I was part of a group that traveled to different worlds," she explained. "We were meant to form alliances, study cultures, build bridges. But when disagreements arose, I was blamed. I was told I had no value." Her eyes dimmed. "So they left me on a transport, alone." Evan's chest tightened. He didn't show anger, she didn't need anger, but he felt it. Not for her, but for the ones who had made her believe she was worth so little. "You shouldn't have gone through that," he said quietly. She looked away. "It does not matter now. This outpost was simply the first place the transport stopped. And you plan to stay here? Alone?" "I planned to disappear," she admitted softly. The wind gusted, sending a small swirl of dust around their feet. Evan felt something shift inside him. Something protective. She didn't look like someone who deserved a life of silence and isolation. She looked like someone who needed space to heal. Someone who deserved better than to fade away in a place no one cared about. "You don't have to disappear," he said. Lyrana blinked, startled by the firmness in his voice. "Why do you care so much? You do not know me." Evan rubbed the back of his neck, searching for an answer that didn't sound foolish. "Maybe I don't know everything about you," he said slowly. "But I know enough. I know you're kind. I know you're trying. I know you've been through something difficult and still have strength left. That's enough for me to care." She stared at him again with that same searching look, the one that made him feel like he was being examined not by a stranger but by someone trying to understand whether humans were capable of genuine goodness. "What do you want from me?" she asked quietly, as if bracing for an answer she'd heard too many times before. "Nothing," he said simply. Her breath caught again. She stepped back, not out of fear but disbelief. "No one wants nothing." "I do," he said. "I just want you to be okay." A long silence followed. Lyrana's expression softened, turning into something more open and uncertain. She seemed like someone standing at the edge of a decision she didn't know how to make. "Evan," she said softly, "I do not understand humans. I do not understand how someone can offer kindness with no purpose." "It's not complicated," he murmured. "Sometimes we care because caring is the right thing." Her eyes shimmered again, faint glowing freckles appearing along her cheeks. "When you speak like this, it feels safe." He touched his chest lightly, surprised by how much her words mattered. Good. You should feel safe. Lyrana hesitated, then asked in a small voice, Will you show me this place? I want to understand where you live. He nodded. Of course. They walked through the outpost together. It wasn't much, just metal structures, repair stations, dusty markets, and narrow paths leading toward the outer ridges. But with her beside him, even the ordinary sights felt different. She observed everything closely. She watched workers repair solar lines. She watched children run between cargo crates. She watched old traders count their credits and joke about storms. But more than anything, she watched how people interacted, how some smiled, some grumbled, some helped each other without thinking twice. Humans are emotional, she said thoughtfully. Evan laughed softly. That's one way to describe us. They feel deeply, she continued. They react quickly, but they also heal quickly. It is strange. Strange good or strange bad? She tilted her head. Strange good, he smiled. As they walked past the machinery workshop, Lyrana stopped suddenly. She touched one of the rusted pipes, her fingers glowing faintly where they met the metal. You can do that? Evan asked in surprise. She nodded. My people can sense energy flows. This machine is tired, he chuckled. Machines get tired? All things get tired, she replied softly. Even people. Evan didn't miss the way her voice lowered on the last words, as if speaking about herself. Are you tired, Lyrana? He asked gently. She turned toward him, violet eyes soft. Yes, I am tired of being unseen. He felt something ache inside him. A strong urge to protect not just her body but her heart. Well, he replied, you're not unseen anymore. She took a slow breath as though holding on to his words. They continued walking, but her steps were quieter, almost thoughtful. Eventually they reached the small overlook behind the solar yard. From there they could see the distant shifting dunes, the sky turning a deep purple as night approached. Your world is quiet, she said. It's forgotten, Evan corrected. That's different. She lowered herself onto a metal crate, her posture softening. Sometimes, forgotten places are safer. He sat beside her, though keeping a respectful distance. Do you want to stay? You know, for a while. Until you figure out what you want next. Her fingers brushed the edge of her bag. I do not know what I want. Everything I knew before feels far away now. You can take your time, he said. She stared at the horizon for a long moment. Then she whispered, Evan, thank you. For what? For seeing me. For speaking to me without asking for anything. For... She paused, searching again for a word she hadn't used often. For making me feel human. He looked at her softly. You don't have to be human to be worth something. Her eyes widened again, and her glowing freckles brightened. She turned toward him slowly, as if his words pulled her back like gravity. You keep giving me compliments, she said. Do you want me to stop? She shook her head quickly. No, I am not sure how to receive them. No one has spoken to me like this, ever. He gave a gentle smile. Then maybe this is your first time. First times can feel strange. Strange good? She asked softly. Strange very good, he answered. She lowered her gaze, smiling quietly for the first time, a real smile, soft and warm. The kind of smile that wasn't practiced or polite but born from comfort. Night settled around them. The outpost lights flickered on one by one. Workers drifted away to their quarters. A faint hum from the power grid filled the air. They stayed seated in silence until the wind grew cooler. Finally, Lyrana said, You offered me a place to stay. Do you mean it? Yes, he said without hesitation. Why? She whispered, for the third time that day. He looked at her with calm honesty. Because I want you to be somewhere you feel safe. Even if it's just for one night. Or many nights. It's your choice. She slowly stood up, watching him as though testing the sincerity in his eyes. When she seemed satisfied, she nodded. Then, I will stay. With you. His heart jumped, but he kept his expression kind and steady. All right. Come on. My place is small, but it's quiet. They began walking back toward the living quarters. Lyrana stayed close, though not because she was afraid. It was more like she had found something familiar in his presence, something she didn't want to lose. Halfway there, she stopped walking. "Evan," she said quietly. He turned. "Yes?" She stepped closer, her eyes glowing softly in the night. "When you called me worthy?" It made my heart feel heavy again. But warm. Very warm. "That's normal," he said gently. "It means you're beginning to heal." She took a shaky breath, as if trying to steady herself. "Will it change me? Will it change me?" "Only in good ways." She nodded, accepting the answer. Then she whispered, almost too softly, "Please, don't stop seeing me." He shook his head. "I won't." And for the second time that day, she turned and looked at him as if his words had become a new world she wasn't ready to leave. Evan's living quarters were small, barely larger than a cargo container. But it was clean and warm. The lights flickered softly when he opened the door, and Lyrana stepped inside slowly, looking around as if she had entered a place she had only imagined before. There was one small bed, a workbench with scattered tools, a heater fixed with old wires, and a cracked window that showed a strip of the night sky. "It is peaceful," she said softly. He smiled. "It's not much, but it's home." She touched the edge of the workbench with gentle curiosity, her silver-toned fingers tracing the worn metal. "You fix machines here?" "Most of the time, yes," he replied. "Sometimes the outpost sends me out for repairs. Sometimes I just help people who don't know how to fix things." "You help a lot of people then," she said, watching him carefully. He shrugged lightly. "That's what I do." "Is that why you helped me today?" she asked. "Because it is your nature to fix things?" Evan paused. Then he answered honestly. "I didn't help you because something was broken. I helped you because you looked like someone who needed one moment of kindness." Her eyes softened again. She stepped closer, folding her hands together in front of her chest. "Kindness is not common where I come from. You deserve it anyway," he said. She exhaled slowly, as if absorbing his words into her heart. The heater hummed, warming the space. Lyrana moved toward the window, her silhouette framed by the faint glow of the dunes outside. She watched the horizon with a strange mix of longing and calm. "This world is quiet," she said. "But when I stand here, it feels safe." "That's good," Evan said. "You should feel safe wherever you are." She turned slightly toward him. "With you?" "I do." He didn't know how to respond to that. It wasn't the kind of sentence he heard in his daily life. People didn't come to him for comfort. They came for tools and repairs. But now, standing across from Lyrana, he realized that she wasn't just resting her body here, she was resting her heart. "I'm glad," he said softly. They shared a quiet moment. The air felt gentle, warm, almost healing. But then a sharp alarm blared across the outpost, breaking the peace. Red lights flashed along the outer walkways. Evan straightened at once. "That's not good," he muttered. "What does it mean?" Lyrana asked, tense. "Emergency docking," he said. A ship arrived without clearance. Lyrana's expression shifted instantly. Her glow dimmed. Her body stiffened. She whispered, "My people. They might have come." Evan turned to her. "Are they dangerous?" She swallowed hard. "Not dangerous, but they want to take me back. They believe I should serve a role that I no longer accept." Evan moved closer, his voice steady. "Do you want to go back with them?" "No," she said, shaking her head quickly. "No, I cannot. If I return, I will be forced into a life I never chose." "Then you're not going anywhere," he said firmly. Her breath trembled. "Evan, you cannot protect me from them. They are more advanced, more prepared. They will not listen to you." "That doesn't mean I'll let them hurt you," he said. She stared at him with a mix of fear and admiration. "Why do you speak like this?" "You barely know me. I know enough to stand with you," he replied. Before she could answer, the outpost speakers crackled. A voice called out, "All citizens remain in your quarters. Foreign vessel detected. Do not approach." Lyrana's fingers trembled. "They are looking for me." Evan touched her arm gently. Stay here. Do not open the door. She grabbed his wrist in panic. Where are you going? I need to see who they are. If they ask questions, I'll try to lead them away from you. No, she whispered, tightening her hold. Evan, they will not believe you. They sense emotion. They will know you are lying. That's a risk I'm willing to take. Her eyes widened, glowing softly in fear. Do not do this for me. I'm not leaving you alone, he said. You're not going back to a place that broke your spirit. Something flickered in her eyes, a spark of strength and warmth. She released his wrist slowly. Then be careful. I will. Evan stepped outside, closing the door behind him. The walkway was filled with nervous workers peeking out from windows. A sleek silver ship had landed near the docking bay, humming with unfamiliar energy. 3 alien figures stepped out, their posture rigid, their expressions unreadable. He approached cautiously. One of them, taller than the others, scanned him with sharp violet eyes, similar to Lyrana's. Human, the alien said. We seek a traveler from our world. She left her assignment without permission. Evan kept his expression neutral. What does she look like? The alien's gaze narrowed. She is young, silver-toned skin, violet eyes, carries a travel bag. I haven't seen her, Evan said calmly. The alien stared deeper, as if reading something beneath his words. Your emotions shift when you speak of her. Evan's jaw tightened, but he didn't back down. You're mistaken. No, the alien replied. I can sense it. You know where she is. Evan stepped forward boldly. If she doesn't want to go with you, you shouldn't force her. She is part of our group, the alien said. She belongs with us. She belongs where she feels safe, Evan snapped. The alien studied him carefully. Humans are strange. You care for someone who is not even your species. Care has no species, Evan replied. The alien tilted his head, evaluating the human standing firm before him. You risk yourself for her. Calm. She deserves that much. A moment of silence stretched, tense and sharp. Then a voice rang out from behind Evan. Enough. He turned. Lyrana stood at the walkway entrance, breathing hard, her eyes glowing brighter than he'd ever seen. She walked past Evan, placing herself between him and the aliens. Do not question him, she said firmly. I came on my own. He is not responsible for me. Lyrana, the tall alien said, you must return. You abandoned your duties. She shook her head. I abandoned a place where I was not seen. I will not return. That is not your choice. It is, she said, voice steady. I choose my own path now. The alien stepped closer. You are confused. This human has influenced you. Evan moved beside her. She's not confused. Lyrana looked at Evan, her eyes softening. Then she faced her people again. If you force me, she said quietly, you will only push me further away. I have found a place where I am treated with respect. I will not leave it. Her people hesitated. Something in her voice, calm yet firm, carried a strength they had never heard from her before. One of the shorter aliens whispered to the tall one, perhaps she is not who we believed. The tall alien looked at her again, slower this time. Lyrana, has this human given you purpose? No, she said. He gave me something greater. What is greater than purpose? She stepped closer to Evan, her voice warm, steady, certain. He gave me worth. Silence fell across the walkway. Even the wind paused, as if listening. The tall alien exhaled softly. If this is your choice, then we cannot take you. Lyrana nodded slowly. It is my choice. Then farewell, the alien said, stepping back. The ship's doors closed. Light surrounded the vessel. In moments, it lifted into the sky and disappeared beyond the clouds. The outpost became quiet again. Lyrana stood still for a moment, breathing deeply. Evan walked toward her, worry softening into relief. You didn't have to come out, he said. It was dangerous. She turned to him with a gentle smile. You risked yourself for me. I could not let you stand alone. He placed a hand over his chest, Trying to calm the rush of emotion her words stirred. "Are you all right?" "Yes," she whispered. "For the first time?" "Yes." Evan exhaled in relief. "Good." Lorana stepped closer, close enough that he could see every glowing freckle on her cheeks. "Evan," she said softly. "When you complimented me, you changed something inside me. I did not know how deep it would go." He smiled gently. "You're learning to believe in yourself." "No," she corrected softly. "I am learning to believe because of you." He didn't know how to reply. She stood in front of him, the person he had helped without expecting anything, the person who now looked at him with trust and warmth. "Evan," she whispered, "you asked for nothing, but I want to give you something." "What is that?" he asked. Her voice softened like starlight. "A place in my story. If you want it." His heart stirred. "I'd like that." She smiled truly, fully for the first time. "Then," she said, "I will stay here. With you. Not because I must, but because you saw me. Before even I could see myself." And as the night settled around them, Lorana turned once more, looked at him the same way she had the first moment he made her feel seen, and this time, she didn't look away.